What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team career mode. We are here for the 9th round of Season 4 of our Jaguar Racing career. We are going to be at the Canadian Grand Prix for this one, and if you've watched previous seasons you will know that this has turned into one of my favourite tracks on the whole calendar. It seems to be one of the tracks I have the most pace around of any on the entire calendar, and as a result I am gunning not only for a podium finish here but also for a win. We of course had our second podium finish of the season in Spain after a long time absent from the podium, despite the fact that I had a few races where it looked like I might be capable of getting one. It took us a long while. We got the win all the way back in Bahrain, and that's the only win we've had in the first 8 races of the season. I'm hoping that here in round 9 we might be able to add to our tally. I certainly believe we have the capability as we get ready to put on the final upgrade in the entirety of the research and development tab. There's nothing more we can do after that one, the final durability upgrade, and then we are going to have a fully upgraded car once that comes in. We're going to be changing a few components. You may have seen as well that I did choose a new rival in Charles Leclerc. He has been looking pretty good this season. He's been getting himself up into strong positions on a regular basis. I am thinking that he will be a rather difficult rival to go up against, but we will see whether that proves to be true or not over the next few rounds. I am sure we've got Canada, we've got Austria, we've got Britain, we've got Hungary. I think France is in the mix as well, actually. So we have a number of tracks coming up that I think we have the potential to do well at, and I'm hoping that we will be able to comprehensively beat the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc through those. But let's focus on Canada for now. Obviously, this was the site of my first win 2 seasons ago, back in Season 2. You know, kind of a bit unexpected. I was looking like I think I qualified P7, if I remember correctly. And I made up a few positions off the start, and I was looking like I was going to come through for around P3, P4, and then towards the end of the race, I just suddenly picked up the pace dramatically and managed to make the overtakes for the win. Now here in practice, I would say that me being P1 isn't necessarily totally representative of my pace. It rained for pretty much the entire session after the first 10 minutes, and I fit my soft compound run in the first 10 minutes, so that is that's how we managed to get that. But yeah, now we are going to be getting into qualifying, where I'm hoping that we can show that it was not a fluke in practice, but it is going to be raining for the entirety of qualifying here, and in fact it's suggesting that it's going to be wet during the race as well. So I'm anticipating that actually using a wet setup here might be the correct idea. So I've implemented that already. I've had that on since practice, and we're going to be taking that through once Parc Fermé comes into effect. And we will be using a wet setup for the weekend. Now, it is only intermediate conditions here in Q1 at the moment, but I think it is going to be raining more and more, so I'm anticipating that it will get wetter and wetter as the session goes on. So it is a 1:19.6 to kick things off, and that is the fastest time of the session so far when I set it at the beginning of the session. But I was able to improve on it marginally towards the end. Not that it even mattered, to be honest, because we were already P1 even after everyone had already set their second laps. But we come up to the line, it was a 1:19.3, and so that's going to be good enough to see us through to P2 very comfortably in P1. And yeah, we were quite a lot faster than basically everybody else on the grid after all. Yeah, 7 tenths ahead of Perez and then 1 second ahead of everyone else. Nice to see Magnussen in P3 there. Let's hope he can continue that level of performance throughout the next couple of sessions. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc has been eliminated along with Sargent, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Stroll and De Vries. But yeah, that's the first time I've seen a surprising elimination in Q1 basically all season, and Charles Leclerc is all the way down in 22nd. I'm not sure what happened to him there, but well, that's a good way to start the rivalry for me, him being all the way down there. It's going to be hard for him to even come back and score points now, you would have to assume, never mind beating me as I try and gun for my first pole position of the season, which in the wet I think we do have a good chance of doing. It's a 1:19.5 on our first run of Q1, and in fact this ended up being the only run we ended up doing. I said Q1, it's actually Q2. It's the only run we ended up doing in Q2 because the rain got heavier and there was no point going again. So we were P1 in Q1, we were P1 in Q2. Can we go the whole way and get pole position in Q3? Eliminated here Gasly, Verstappen, Magnussen, and then also, unsurprisingly, Joe, Tsunoda and Fittipaldi. Yeah, Magnussen pretty disappointing, to be honest, given that he was all the way up in P3 before. I would have liked to have seen him do a little bit better there, but he is out in Q2 again, and it's going to be difficult for him to score points tomorrow, especially with the rain coming down in the way that it will be. I would not be surprised to see Magnussen failing to score points tomorrow for the second time this season. Here we are now in Q3, first flying lap. It's going to be on a set of intermediate tyres again. Never really got wet enough for the wets. We're getting towards the crossover point now, but not quite to the level we'd need to be. We're going slower than we were in Q2. It's a 120.7 at the moment, but we will see if we can get any improvement on that in our second lap of Q3. I think the majority of the people who are coming through here now have already done lap times, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this is going to be a pole position no matter what happens. But we'll see if we can get some improvement on it just for insurance, just in case anyone behind me is planning on doing another lap. I'm not sure whether they are or not. We are currently about a 10th down on our fastest time, but as we go through the final chicane, maybe we can make up a bit of time here, avoid the wall of champions, thread the needle. We do make up a little bit of time. It's not going to be a major improvement, only about a 10th. It's a 120.6, and that is pole position.
Excellent lap. We're all very, very pleased with that one. Nice work. Come on, I'll see you back in the pits.
Finally, first time this season we grab a pole position here in Formula 1, and well, given how many times I was bagging pole positions in seasons 2 and 3, it's honestly a little bit surprising that it took me this long to get one in season 4. You know, we went 8 races without one, but we finally have one, and surely from the front of the grid, from the very front of the grid, from the pole position, there should be no chance in hell that we don't win this race, unless something freaky happens. You know, it's going to be raining. There is the potential for a bit of chaos, but hopefully more than anything, I'm hoping that will just make it all the more difficult for people to overtake me, and we will be able to hold on to the victory. But we will see whether that rings true or not. I'm going to try and do everything in my power that I can. You know, I'm going to try and go for one of my trademark fantastic starts that you've come to know and love in this series, and I'm going to try and make sure I absolutely nail the strategy to make sure there's no opportunities for people to beat me on strategy. And yeah, hopefully if we can do that, as well as maybe having a little bit of some good defending, we should be able to come home to take the victory here for the second time this season, and get ourselves back in the championship fight a little bit. So we will see what we can do as we get into the Canadian Grand Prix.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. 2.7 mile circuit peaking at around 190 miles per hour, 2 DRS zones, 14 turns, tight corners, a narrow track, and the famous Wall of Champions. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Robinson lines up on pole position. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Oscar Piastri, Norris, Teo Pourchaire, Perez, Albon, Hauger, Ocon, Gasly, Verstappen, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Russell, Fittipaldi, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Stroll, De Vries, Leclerc, Joe, and Liam Lawson. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? A warm welcome to Natalie Pinkham, who is beside me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about Robinson. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within the team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do. And that has definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Okay, we've got that relief of having points on the board finally, so let's keep that form up and get another top 10 finish today, please.
The strategy appears to be soft medium. It makes sense considering we didn't really use many of the softs in qualifying. In fact, we didn't use any softs in qualifying. We didn't use any slicks at all. So yeah, we're going to be going on to the softs and then switching on to the mediums around sort of lap 15 in this 35 lap race. But I think that with the rain coming towards the end, the potential to do an undercut here might be quite high, I would say, because, you know, we're not going to need the full length of the tyre wear to get to the end of the Grand Prix. You would have to imagine, if we're going to be going on to the inters or even maybe the full wets. I think that there is a chance that those won't necessarily be needed. The rain isn't coming till a little bit later in the race, probably towards the end of the race, but hopefully we're at least able to see some of it. But we will see what we can do as the lights come on and the lights go out, and we've had a good getaway compared to Carlos Sainz alongside us, and that has enabled us to lead away. Piastri's got ahead of Sainz as well, and we are through in P1. We maintain the lead through the first few corners. That is exactly what we would want to see at the beginning of this race, and now it's just a case of spending the next 35 laps holding on to this. So hopefully by the time that this first clip I'm showing you from the race ends, the next clip you will see will be me crossing the line on lap 35. No, obviously I'm just kidding. Even if that were the case, I would probably find some way to milk the content, you know. But I can assure you that more is going to happen in this race than just that. But yeah, we will see how things unfold for the time being. Piastri 5 tenths behind us at the moment as we get into the hairpin. Everything seems to be going quite well for us at the moment. We maybe have a bit more pace through the corners, which I guess is to be expected given that we're running a wet setup. Traditionally, wet setups have a bit more downforce on them, which means we're a little bit faster through the corners. We will be a little bit slower in the straights. That might make us susceptible to Piastri, but if we're faster over the course of a whole lap, over the first couple laps, hopefully we can break out of the DRS range. But when we're going on runs like that through the final chicane, it's going to be difficult. You know, you can see Piastri is closed down to just within 2 tenths there, and I'm not surprised because that was a pretty poor run through the final chicane. So yeah, hopefully we can continue building the gap a little bit. But by the time we get to the end of lap 3, you can see that Piastri is in my DRS range, and well, I'm going to be burning as much battery as I feel like I can get away with for now. But I don't think that it's going to be enough for us to keep Piastri behind through these straights. And we get another bad run through the final chicane, and that is going to allow Piastri to absolutely mug us. He's just you know, gone blitzing past us, and that is the lead lost on lap 4, and Piastri is through to take P1 in the Canadian Grand Prix. And by the time we get onto lap 7, he is 2 seconds down the road from us. So yeah, we might have to rethink our strategy here a little bit if we're going to have any chance of beating these guys. They do seem to have pulled away quite a lot. Now Norris is going through as well, so yeah, we'll see if we can get him back. But I think he overtook in a position that means that he's also going to have the DRS in this DRS zone. And to make my life worse, I think Carlos Sainz is now in my DRS range as well. So we're going to try and use the slipstream of Norris to hopefully pull away from Carlos Sainz a little bit. But yeah, that beginning of the race really not going as I've intended it to. I was hoping I'd be able to pull away from these guys, and quite the opposite has happened, unfortunately. I was just keeping an eye on the gap behind, and the fact that we're pitting on lap 15, because I'm preempting that there is going to be some rain coming in the last 5 to 10 laps, I'm feeling like I can maybe get away with boxing on this lap, possibly. We're coming under a lot of pressure from Albon now, and I'm about to fall off the podium. And if there's one thing I don't want to do, it is finish off the podium. So we're going to be coming into the pit at the end of this lap, and we are going to be going on to a set of medium compound tyres. I would say to the end, and theoretically they should be able to go to the end, but the idea is that we'll be switching onto the intermediates later on in the race. So yeah, we will see whether that is going to be needed or not. If not, then this might not be the right strategy. But if you watch my most recent league race, you will know that yeah, I ended up almost losing out on points due to not being decisive enough on strategy. So this time I've decided to be a bit more decisive, and hopefully it pans out. I came out in exactly the point I would want to be. We came out in 14th, which means that we were ahead of all the back markers that often we have to do a bit of an undercut on when we find ourselves boxing. I said do an undercut on, I meant overtake when we do an undercut. There we go, that's what I was trying to say. All the cars we usually have to overtake when we've done an undercut. This time we don't have to get past them. Few cars coming into the pits at the end of lap 15, including Lando Norris, who was leading the race before the pit stop phase. So hopefully this should mean that we are back through into the lead. We did do a 4-lap undercut on him, so we can't be too surprised. And a couple laps later, we have caught up to our teammate Kevin Magnussen. Hopefully he gets out of the way of us nice and quickly, although that said, I have just rammed him up the gearbox. Get a wriggle on Kev or move out of the way. You know, we are not racing right now. I am basically an entire pit stop ahead of you. So there's absolutely no reason for him to defend this position with anything more than he absolutely needs to. I think he might be boxing this lap, so I'm going to try and give him enough room to manoeuvre into the pits without causing a collision with him. And indeed, he has come into the pits at the end of this lap. He's held us up a little bit, which isn't great, but you know, unfortunately there wasn't much we could do in the way of team orders there. I wish there was something we could have done. But we do come out ahead of Piastri as well, and then obviously the last couple cars pit as well, and that allows us to move back into the lead of the Grand Prix. But Lando Norris is going to try and take it back away from us, try and get himself up into P1 in this race to get another victory this season. He's already had a couple, of course, but I am going to try and deny him getting his third. Nobody has had 3 victories so far this season, and I'm hoping that I can get 2 before Norris gets 3, and quite frankly I'm hoping I can get 3 before Norris gets 3 as well, but we will focus on that in a future race. We've got 14 laps to defend from Lando Norris, and I don't think that this is going to be straightforward. You know, it's not a great situation to find myself in. I am on 4-lap older tyres than Norris, 6-lap older tyres than Piastri, so the more and more that we progress through this race, the more worn out my tyres are going to get, and the decreased likelihood that I'm going to be able to defend from them and keep them behind. You can already see going into the hairpin, I'm trying to brake early, and still I'm going quite deep into the hairpin. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very difficult situation to stay in P1 here. As you can see, Lando Norris moving to the outside with the DRS, and he is through up into P1. Maybe there exists a chance for us to fight him back here, but we get a bit of a tank slapper on the exit of the chicane, and we didn't have any DRS either, so that's going to allow Piastri to get through, and we have lost 2 positions in the space of 2 corners, and we are back down into P3. We are 10 seconds ahead of Esteban Ocon, and there is a virtual safety car because Carlos Sainz, who I believe was in 4th or 5th, I think he was maybe trying to go for a move on Ocon to get into 5th, or to get into 4th rather. He is out of the race. We will see what happened to him in just a moment. The virtual safety car has been upgraded to a full safety car as well, and this could screw us, quite frankly, because we are on significantly older tyres than everyone else. But let's see what happened with Carlos Sainz here as we come on the run down into the final chicane. He just gets a bit of a tank slapper and hits both walls, and he is out of the race. I actually believe Esteban Ocon himself did something quite similar to that in one race that I did in my F1 22 career. I don't remember what season, but I definitely remember there being a clip like that. So anyway, because I figured I might be screwed if I had stayed out, I might be very susceptible to the cars behind. I've decided to go for a very risky strategy here. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I can get a cheap pit stop, and I am going to be going onto a set of soft compound tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. Because we're going to have a few laps under safety car, and then obviously, you know, we have less fuel than we had at the start of the race. I'm very confident that they should be able to get to the end of the race and hopefully be faster than the tyres of the cars in front of us. However, the downside to that is that we are now down in P10, which means that as we get onto the safety car restart here, we're going to have to have one hell of a restart if we're going to have any hope of getting back even to where we were in P3, never mind maybe challenging for the victory. We've already got ahead of our former teammate Dennis Hauger there. Of course, he raced for Jaguar in seasons 2 and 3, and now we are challenging Sergio Perez, and by the time that we get to the chicane, I think we are just far enough ahead of Sergio Perez to make that move happen. So that is us up into P8, but there's still 5 more positions that we've got to gain to even get back into the position we were in before. Now, you might be saying that this might have been a bit of a strategic blunder, but I honestly think we would have lost as many positions as we find ourselves down in now if it weren't for making a tyre change. And now we have the potential to really fight on these soft compound tyres. We're going to be faster than the rest of the cars in front, probably for the remainder of the race, you would have to say, unless they really drop off towards the end of the stint. But I'm only doing 10 racing laps on them, so I'm hoping it should be okay as we dove up the inside of Pierre Gasly there at the hairpin. That is us up into P7, and now we're putting some pressure on Max Verstappen in the Aston Martin here. We're going to see if we can get ahead of him as well and by the time that we get to the final chicane, I think we're just close enough alongside him that we're able to squeeze through, and we're up into P6. And so that is 4 positions gained on the restart lap here in Canada, and with only 9 laps left to go, I think there is a real possibility that we could challenge not only for a podium position here, but also for the victory. It's going to be a carbon copy of what happened in Season 2, where we were just charging through the field in the final stint. And yeah, hopefully we can continue making up these positions. We dive up the inside of George Russell from a long way back. He has very little to say about it, and now we're going to set after Théo Pourchaire in front. The man in the Mercedes, he's already had a couple of podiums this season, but I am going to make sure there is absolutely no chance that he is going to be able to get a podium on this occasion. It looks like the rain is coming pretty soon, but well, honestly, with how late it's arriving, there is a chance that this might turn into one of those races where we don't go on to intermediate tyres. And if that happens, I honestly think there's a really good chance I could get the victory here, because I am going to be on grippier tyres than everybody else. So yeah, we will see whether that rings true or not. We're up at the P4, having overtaken Théo Pourchaire there, and now I'm setting my sights on Esteban Ocon, who is just ahead of us. As we get through the chicane, you can see how much more grip I have compared to these guys. I'm getting significantly better exits from the corners than they are. I'm following them through the corners, and we're going to try and go out the inside of Ocon at the chicane, and we make our way through. We go off the track a little bit there, but fortunately we don't get a track limits warning, because I think we're 1 warning away from a penalty at this point. And so that is us back into P3 where we were before, and now we're going to see if we can charge after Piastri and Norris up ahead. Lap 29 now, and you can see that the rain is starting to come down, a few drops on the T-cam there, and well, nonetheless we still have just such superior grip and superior traction compared to these guys in front, that I think there is a real possibility we can catch them. We're within a second of them now, and not only that, but the DRS is still enabled at the moment, which means that I think we should be able to charge them down. Lap 30, we're looking at Max Verstappen. He's going to become the 2nd retirement from this Grand Prix. Doesn't affect us, but might increase the chances of Kevin Magnussen scoring points here, now that a potential contender for him has retired from the Grand Prix, and we are going to see whether we can put some pressure on the cars in front now, as we're just 4/10 behind Oscar Piastri, but the rain is getting heavier. We don't have long to make these moves, otherwise we may struggle quite a lot to make them once the track gets a little bit wetter. As they say, the track isn't quite ready for intermediates yet, and even if it was, I honestly think that boxing onto a set of intermediates at this point, you probably would not be able to make up the difference by the end of the race. So yeah, I think pitting again would be a poor strategy. I think a 3-stop strategy is not the way to go here. But the 2-stop strategy, I was in the best possible position when it came out, because it meant that I could box, not lose that much time to the cars behind, make a lot of overtakes, and now we are up into P2 as we get ahead of Oscar Piastri there. By the time we get onto lap 32, you can see that the rain has really started to come down now. The track is undeniably starting to get to the point where we're going to be losing grip on the slick tyres. But like I said, it's just too late in the race to box now. So I'm just going to have to hope, I think, more than anything. We're going to dive up the inside of Lando Norris, but unfortunately we just go off the track. And as the DRS gets disabled, I've had to give up the position not only to Norris to avoid a penalty, but also to Piastri. And so we actually lose a position by doing that failed overtake attempt. And well, we are going to have to try and make up 2 positions now, and with no DRS that is going to be easier said than done, I think. Meanwhile, on lap 32, as all that was going on, Liam Lawson was retiring from the Grand Prix. He is out, and I think he made a bit of contact there with the AlphaTauri. Not sure if that was Stroll or De Vries, but either way, contact was made, and definitely there was some front wings flying there. Not sure whether that was De Vries or Stroll, but either way, Liam Lawson becomes the 3rd retirement from the Canadian Grand Prix. And as we make our way onto lap 33, you can see that I am closing down Oscar Piastri once again as we make our way down to the final chicane, and we are going to try and guard the inside of him here. We're just close enough to squeeze him out a little bit there. He goes off the track there. I guess you could argue I pushed him off a little bit, but it definitely wasn't intentional, and we have moved through into P2 once again. But there is still a 1.7 second gap to Lando Norris ahead, so I don't know if we're going to be able to make this up before the end of the race. We don't have very much grip on these tyres at all, but neither does he, I don't think. So we're going to have to see what the delta looks like as we make our way through for the final couple of laps of the Grand Prix. You can see I've closed him down by about 2 seconds over the course of this lap. And so maybe on the run into the final chicane on this lap, we might just be able to get ahead of Lando Norris and try and go for the overtake, for the lead of the Grand Prix once again. We actually haven't led this Grand Prix for much of it, all things considered. I think we only had the lead for all of about 5 laps so far over the course of the entire Grand Prix. But it seems like with the battery, we are going to try and do everything we can to get ahead of Lando Norris here. We're going to brake around the same time as him, and we're going to squeeze him out. We do go off the track there, but I guess the game considered that Lando Norris forcing us off the track. We were alongside one another. I was slightly ahead by the time I got to the corner. It was my corner, and subsequently we are through for the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix, and with only this lap left to go, I think we might be able to hold on to this now. We're going to try and pull ahead of Lando Norris if we possibly can, and if we can do that, then we should be able to hold on to the victory here. They said there was an incident on track, but they weren't looking to push for a safety car. I'm not sure what incident that was referring to. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. No safety car. They are saying that the rain is starting to clear up now. Not that it's particularly relevant to us because the Grand Prix is going to be ending very, very soon, within the next 20 seconds or so, you would have to say. As we round the hairpin, you can see that the gap to Piastri now, not Norris anymore, Piastri's got ahead of his former teammate there. The gap to Piastri is 1.5 seconds, so barring any major incident into the Wall of Champions, we are going to be winning this, I think. But nonetheless, we could still get a 3-second penalty. We're on 2 track limits warnings. It's not guaranteed. As we go through the final chicane, are we going to get through it cleanly? Yes, we are. We're going to hold on to the victory. Piastri isn't going to catch us no matter how hard he tries, and we are finally going to take our second victory of the season, and this one is very, very sweet.
Oh, superb driving. That is the race win, my friend. Well done.
I am very, very happy with that. Thoroughly deserved, I think, driver of the day. We fought very hard for that victory, and we finally have got our second victory of the season.
A nearly flawless performance here then, and a commanding victory. So, Natalie, what made the difference out there today?
Well, they managed their tyres to absolute perfection. A tyre whisperer, in fact. And that is what set them apart.
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
Well, it has been a hard-fought season so far, the first 9 races. Obviously, we got that victory in Bahrain, and since then, we have not been able to repeat that level of success until right now, as we make our way onto the top step of the podium. Once again, we are flanked by Piastri and Norris, the former teammates. Now Norris has moved over to Mercedes, where he's still enjoying a lot of success. He will still be leading the championship, but we will have undoubtedly closed that gap to him, and hopefully we can keep fighting in Austria.
Let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. It's a good result for Lando Norris, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's focus on driver of the day, Natalie Pinkham. Come on, who do you pick?
I have to give it to Robinson.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. Can't wait to see what's next.
Things are looking up for us. We've moved up into P2 in the Drivers' Championship now. We're tied on points with Oscar Piastri, but we've had 2 wins this season. He's yet to have one. Ironically, his teammate, Alex Albon, actually has had a victory this season in Monaco, I believe. But yeah, he is down in the championship compared to his teammate, who seems to be the slightly more consistent finisher of the two. And we're also up into P4 in the Constructors' Championship, so hopefully we can continue scoring good points to get us up into at least P3. Hopefully Kevin Magnussen can keep making his way up the order as well. Maybe once we've done his contract renewal, maybe we can look at doing a Spec 3 upgrade for the personnel facility, and maybe try and improve Kevin Magnussen's pace a little bit, to see if he can make his way into becoming a driver that can hopefully challenge us at the top of the field. Nonetheless, I think that things are really starting to look good for us. If we can repeat this level of performance going forward, I think that we have a very, very good chance of challenging for the championship. You know, I just need to get some consistently strong points finishes, and then hopefully have a really, really good end to the season. The end of the season is usually where I do my best work. You know, I'm good at the tracks that come at the close of the season. But to be honest, this section of the season is also a pretty good one for me. Up until sort of around Hungary time, I think that I have a good chance of getting a few more solid results. You know, Britain should go well for me. Austria should go well for me. I think France will go all right for me as well. Maybe Hungary. That one's kind of a 50-50. Sometimes I'm really good around there. Sometimes I'm not. And then after that point, we're going to get into a series of races which typically aren't maybe so good for me. You know, Belgium, Monza and Singapore. But then after that, most of the races towards the end of the season, with the possible exception of Mexico, I think will be fairly strong ones for me. So, yeah, I do wholeheartedly believe that we still have a really strong chance of winning this championship and getting at least P3 in the Constructors' Championship to meet the sponsorship target as well. It's going to take a lot of luck, and it's going to take a very, very strong performance from myself, and hopefully some strong performances from Kevin Magnussen as well. But I really, really do believe that we can do it. Meanwhile, in the championship as well, you can see that Max Verstappen, off the back of that DNF, has moved down to P4, which is going to be devastating for him, because at one point in this season, again, it was looking like he was going to be maybe the one to beat after those first few races. He was really looking like he was in control of things. But him and Sergio Perez, for that matter, who also had a couple of victories this season, they both seem to have tailed off a little bit. It's looking like McLaren and Mercedes are probably the two best teams in terms of both of their drivers at the moment. You know, Porsche has been delivering some strong results for Mercedes as well, of course. And yeah, if we're going to compete up in that end, we're going to need Kevin Magnussen to start delivering as well. So hopefully he will have a much better time of things out in Austria in the following race, because yeah, just not quite good enough at the moment. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.